Tom wandered around the store looking for something to buy. Tom bought this painting in Boston. Tom has just bought a new house. Tom bought a house on Park Street. Tom is over there buying apples. Tom bought some liquor. Tom didn't even have enough money to buy one hamburger. Tom bought a new suit last week, but he hasn't worn it yet. Tom needed money to buy food. Tom bought a new helmet. Tom made enough over the summer to buy a bicycle. Tom wants to buy a pair of leather gloves. Tom wanted to buy a sleeping bag. Tom bought Mary a basket full of fruit. Tom bought a one-way ticket to Boston. Tom buys all his clothes from the outlet mall near his house. Tom bought a dishwasher. Tom has decided to buy a motorcycle. Tom didn't buy his bicycle. Mary gave it to him. Tom bought some nectarines. Tom plans to use the money his grandparents gave him to buy a grand piano. Tom bought me coffee. Tom wanted to buy one, even though he wasn't sure what they were. Tom didn't even have enough money to buy one hamburger. Tom bought a basket of fruit for Mary. Tom bought a new dishwasher and told Mary that it was her Valentine's Day gift. Tom decided to buy a motor home. Tom didn't buy the ring that he gave to Mary. He got it from his grandmother. I'd buy Tom a beer, but I think he's still too young to drink. Tom bought trash bags. Let's buy Tom a tennis racket. Tom has bought a new helmet. Why did Tom buy so much ice cream? Tom has bought a dishwasher. How much did the headphones that Tom bought cost? Tom bought a can of beer for himself and a can of coffee for Mary. I bought a lot of things from Tom. Tom is planning to buy a van. I'm buying food for Tom. The cat doesn't seem to like the smell of that at all. Tom doesn't have to buy anything. What did Tom buy at the supermarket? Tom needs money to buy food. Why did Tom buy these flowers? Tom bought a bottle of water for himself and a carton of milk for Mary. I think Tom was the one who bought these flowers. Tom needs to buy a good pair of boots. Do you know where Tom bought these flowers? Tom has already bought tickets for us. I bought one of the paintings, and Tom bought the other. There's almost nothing that money can't buy. Tom needs to buy sunglasses. Now is a great time to buy a house. You ought to buy this for Tom. We're buying food for tonight's party. Tom needs to buy a helmet. I spent all my money on this, so I couldn't buy anything else. Why did Tom buy this one? Many people buy more food than they need. Tom bought this camera for me. Don't worry, I didn't buy that. It was obvious Tom didn't want to buy it. Some people think it's time to buy, others think it's time to sell. Tom bought gifts for all his co-workers. How often do you buy new clothes for your children? I want to buy that for Tom. Why don't you buy one of these too? Tom wants to buy a gun. Now's a good time to buy a new car. Should we buy Tom a housewarming gift? We didn't have to buy any vegetables this month. Tom bought a box of apples. If you want a red car, buy a red car. It was obvious Tom wouldn't buy it. Money won't buy you happiness. Tom has just bought a new truck. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. I'm buying food for Tom's birthday party. Money can't always buy you happiness. Tom wanted to buy a mobile home. We don't have to buy it today. Let's think about it some more, and if we decide we want it, we can come back tomorrow. I bought Tom something to eat. People buy these as souvenirs. Now's not the time to buy a house. I won't buy Tom anything. I bought 3 different kinds of ice cream. Tom bought me this camera. If you want that one, buy that one. Why hasn't Tom bought one yet? I've never bought a new car. Tom bought a mansion near a beautiful waterfall. Some people buy guns for self-protection. What should I buy Tom for his birthday? Now's a bad time to buy a new car. Tom bought a new towel rack for the kitchen. That amount of money could buy a lot of food. Why did Tom buy such a small car? How many tubes of toothpaste did you buy? Tom said he wanted to buy my van. Esperanto is the most spoken constructed language in the world.